You're listening to MLVC, the Madonna podcast, your place for all things Madonna Louise Veronica Ciccone. Hey, everybody, it's Stefan. Welcome to another episode of MLVC. Today on the show, we have friend of the podcast, Neil, coming all the way from London, England for a visit. How are you, Neil?
I'm really good. How are you?
I'm good. So I'm excited to have you back on the show. I think the last time we saw each other was day after the last Texas show.
That was the last, yeah. And then before that, it was about an hour after the first opening night of the Celebration Tour.
Yeah. Both times I think you've been a little tired.
Yeah, I certainly was. That first night, I was quite poorly at the start of the tour. I didn't know what was wrong with me. Yeah, and then the second time after Austin, that was a long run. Those last few shows, you were heading back home, and I was off to Mexico.
Yes, yes. I know it feels weird to talk about celebration. So we've got celebration backgrounds, both of us. We're revisiting Celebration Tour today because Neil has a really great book that's coming out or is almost out, or probably will be out by the time you listen to this. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. However, before we do, as Madonna does, there's always lots of goings on in the Madonna verse. So we thought to do a little update on what she's been up to. So don't just stand there. Let's get to it. It's time for a little This Week in Ciccone. So first off the bat, we wanted to talk about the photos of Madonna in Detroit. She just posted those on her Instagram. It was photos of her visiting her grandmother's house, and then most notably, photos of her visiting her mother's gravesite at the cemetery. I think it was most, I don't know what the word auspicious or gratifying, but it was a come full circle moment because obviously we have that hugely enormous moment in Truth or Dare, the documentary, with Madonna visiting her mother's grave. And now, because of brother Christopher's passing away, she's back at the grave site and she basically replicated the photo of herself. I thought that was kind of poetic in a way.
It was really personal as well. I mean, we don't often get a real glimpse into the personal side of her, and to not just be by the grave, but to see some of the, again, looking at the house, as you said, it's nice to remember she's a human sometimes.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. It's you normally only see her in these like highly elevated environments, whether it be on stage or in her house, which is sort of like it doesn't feel real, like her house sort of feels like this fantasy world. And then you see her at fashion shows or like it, but yeah, you don't see her in real environments. And I think there's nothing more real than like Detroit suburbs and a cemetery.
Yeah, yeah, and we got a series of photos as well. And again, she didn't have to share all of that. It could have just been one photo, nicely posed. Here I am back home, but it wasn't. There was some, the pictures of the flowers and her looking at the house. It was really, really touching.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I wonder sort of what space she was in when she was doing those. I mean, obviously she was cognizant enough to recognize, let's redo that moment from Truth or Dare. Um, but I don't think that was salaciously done, you
No,
know.
no.
Almost like I felt it was almost like it was reverential in a
Yeah,
way.
yeah. Well, she's allowed to look back and she's allowed to be sad, just like we are. I don't think there's any right or wrong way to grieve. And her, she's had a lot in her life, an awful lot in her life. And for her to then be going through that with her brother after what she's been through with her stepmom and what she's been through previously with her own mother and her own trauma of the last couple of years, do it how you want to do it.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and so then we were saying this right before we went on. Oddly timed, her team also posted to Madonna's Facebook account and not any other platforms, which I always think is a strange choice, but they teased a little something's coming over regarding Bedtime Stories' 30th anniversary. It was very cryptic. They said they alluded to the fact that something's coming and check back later, but until then, listen to the album. Neil, what do you think? It could be
So
that they're teasing. So what do you think it is? What would you want it to be?
So I went straight into the details. So I was straight, right, what photo shoot is this from? And I was like, okay, this is from the original album photo shoot that they didn't use, which we had in the UK as the Bedtime Story 12-inch cover. It was different to the hand and rose picture that everyone else got. I was like, right. So for me, if I'm looking for breadcrumbs, that would hopefully lead me to a place of something earlier on in the Bedtime Stories creative process. I've seen rumors online, as everyone else has, around, oh, there's going to be a record store day thing and it's going to have lots of demos on. And we've never had that before. I like to manage my expectations, but that would be a dream for me. Not demos we've heard online, but actually some brand new music that's been locked away in the vaults that we're going to get out. Um, if I manage my expectations, I think it might be a record store day or some kind of release whereby we get a collection of the, Let Down Your Guard, Your Honesty, some of the other tracks from those sessions. Potentially, I think that's, for me, a little bit more realistic. But every part of me in this music-starved place that we are at the moment, where we're having the longest period between albums we've ever had to suffer, I'm desperate to hear something I've not heard before. I'm going to not even use the word new. I'm just going to say something I've not heard before.
Yeah.
So
It's
that for me would be the joy, something new that I've not heard before.
Yeah, and we know it's possible. Like obviously you just said Your Honesty, and Your Honesty was one of those songs I had never heard before. It
Like,
landed on Something to Remember, and it just sort of like there was no like, and here you go. It was just like it just appeared. And I would like to believe that, with her going through all of her archives for the movie that she's been doing, I mean, we hope that she's been going through her archives to possibly one day do those album re-releases that have been rumored that everyone loves to remind her online that she hasn't yet released.
she
Um,
hasn't, but they have not been forgotten.
yes. So yeah, I think to me, like the if I was to dream, it would be music that I've not yet heard. I mean, I would take just one song, like it could be like it could
Pick
be
one-sided picture disc.
yeah, it could be like like a silver vinyl release of the Bedtime Stories album and exclusive download available if you buy it or something, like whatever. I
Yeah.
honestly I would buy the vinyl just to have a fresh Madonna song, like sure.
And then I
But
think, and then I think, well, if I'm not going to get that, then we could get something like we had for American Life, where it's a remix EP. Because for me, Bedtime Stories was the first era where all of a sudden we had remixes on remixes on remixes. That was the era where I started getting into club music and going into clubs. And so, if we can't have some unreleased stuff, unheard stuff, then let's have a collection of maybe remixes that never got commercially released during that era instead. That would be quite nice.
yeah, and then of course, managing my expectations, I'm like, maybe we'll just get a t-shirt, you know?
Or another one of those things you can put your LP in with the funny lenticular sleeves that everyone goes crazy for. Yeah.
Yeah, right. It'll be, yeah,
I
like
love this.
exactly. Lower your expectations. It'll be a lithograph of the album cover, and like it won't be anything fantastic. So I'm trying to temper expectations, but who knows? I guess we'll find out soon enough. Well, and that's the other thing. I'm like, why does her team take so long? Like, why wasn't this out on, like, the surprise should have been like on the day, not
Mm,
soon?
frustrating. Yeah.
Anyway, she was also Madonna recently was seen at Billie Eilish. Billie Eilish went to Madison Square Garden in New York City for 3 nights, and Madonna was there for the first night. She took the twins and her rumored current boyfriend, Boy Toy.
And
Uh,
so I'm sat with everyone else by the looks of it.
how bizarre was that?
And like, why is no one look? Oh, that blew my mind.
I
I'm
was
like,
happy that we did get a couple videos of people seeing that she was there and recording her. But yeah, I was like, um, how bizarre that no one around her knows who she is.
yeah, yeah. But didn't she look good though?
Her
Like,
face card was on point. Oh my
yeah,
goodness.
wow. Yeah,
Just goes to show, like, again, we say it all the time. I mean, I do. I certainly do. I love an unfiltered Madonna. Like, give
mm,
me unface tuned. Like, she looks so beautiful in person. And, like, that, there was nothing face tuned about those videos. I mean, she looked beautiful.
No, she looked great, and I love watching her at concerts. I've been lucky enough in London. I've been at some Kylie Minogue concerts before where she's been there, and obviously she's down on her phone a lot during the show. But when she's up, she is up and enjoying and engaging, and it was nice to see her having fun with the kids. It was nice. I was like, oh, that's a surprise. Didn't
Oh,
expect.
speaking of Kylie Minogue, will you be seeing Kylie Minogue on tour? Of course you will.
Yeah, I'm doing a couple in Manchester and the four in London. She's always really good fun live, really good fun, and you're getting a lot of dates in the States, aren't you?
Yeah, I was happily surprised. I'm going to the first New York night, so I'm excited with me and some friends. I paid a pretty penny so I could be sort of close, but I was like, I'm not dropping Madonna coin on this.
No. No, that'll be fun. That'll be fun because I guess LA when Kylie showed up for the Madonna show in LA, that was interesting because those of us that knew who Kylie was were just gagging, and there were a lot of people in the crowd in LA was like, "Why is everyone going so mad?" It was so it'd be nice for Kylie to have arenas full of people that know who she is. Yeah, a lot of days, a lot of
Do
days.
we think there's a possibility of Madonna returning the favor?
I really hope so. I really
Like,
hope
how
so.
fantastic would it be to and like make it a very different moment than what they did, where it was like Madonna's moment with Kylie was very like acoustic and a cappella almost. Whereas like I'd actually love to see maybe Madonna join Kylie for okay, so let's just take a pause for a moment. What song of Kylie's would we love for Madonna to join Kylie on stage with for like an actual like them just sort of bopping around each other on this? What song would that be?
Oh wow. See, my favorite Kylie song is What Do I Have to Do? So I would want one of the late 80s high energy, get your poppers out, get the strobe light, one of those. That would be phenomenal. I step back in time. What do I have to do? Something from that era.
Locomotion.
Oh no, we've had enough of that.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Although I feel like that'd be the one of the like earworm ones that she would want to do just
Yeah, yeah.
because
That was big in America, wasn't it? That was
it
one
was
of
huge.
Kylie's
Oh, it was like when I
hits.
was growing up, it was like the roller skate song. Like you'd be at the roller rink, and if you weren't out there roller skating and Locomotion came on, that's when you flew to the roller rink. So yeah, I wonder. I mean,
What about you?
for me personally, I think I would love to see them do Spinning Around because Spinning Around was sort of like after Locomotion, America didn't really listen to Kylie Minogue, and then I would go to my local gay bar in Philly right after college, and the DJ would always play Spinning Around, and that's how it was sort of like I came back to Kylie. So I would love that.
That would be really nice as well, because over here in the UK, Light Years, the album that Spinning Around came from, and Music were both released on the same day over here. So there, all that week, there was this tension between the fan bases: who's going to get number one, who's going to get number two. So yeah, that would be nice. Join them back up again.
Yeah. So we'll see. I don't know. I mean, putting it out there, like if she's gonna do it, hopefully I guess it depends on schedules, at that point, like where what Madonna might be up to at that point, where she'll be, I mean, she's here, she hits New York in April, so
Yeah,
well
that can
fingers
happen. We'll put
fingers
that out.
crossed, fingers
Yeah.
yeah, we're putting it out there into the universe. Um, Another thing that is happening, Madonna was posting pictures of her eating soup naked, which who doesn't eat soup without their top on, right?
I always wonder when she posts photos like that. What made you post that? Particularly nice soup you're enjoying that you always want to look back on in your stories archive and remember it every year. Thank you for that. Yeah.
I'm always curious every time she's eating a bowl of soup of something like Truth or Dare, that
Yeah.
infamous scene where she's on the phone with her dad. What? It's like some seaweed soup, or I don't even know what it
I
is.
haven't spoken to you in 6 years, but how many tickets do you want, Slab?
Yeah. I mean, she had her top on there, but I love that in that scene, she's sort of getting her hair bleached. So she's got the bonnet on to, like I love that. But yeah, I assume she was doing something for like because there was wardrobe in the background. It definitely looked like she was getting hair and makeup done, which is why she was probably without clothing because she didn't want to get soup
Yeah.
on the outfit. Um, uh, I mean, obviously, as we pieced things together from Ricardo dropping clues, she obviously was working with Stephen Klein on something because Ricardo was with Stephen Klein's dog, and Stephen Klein had posted something too. So there's rumor that they worked together. So I'm wondering if, again, maybe that was like on set of her doing whatever she was photographing with Stephen Klein.
Me living in my eternal optimism phase is, oh, they must be shooting the single cover for the Max Martin song that was made 4.5 million years ago that we're still waiting for. Yeah, so I mean, that's where my head always goes when something. Oh, I mean, all roads always for me lead back to new music, please.
And I'm glad that you say that because here on the podcast, my dreams are
No,
always shot down by the others.
you
Uh,
get so much. You really do get so much crap for always wanting new music.
yeah. But I do want to say yes. When I see stuff like that, again, that's me tempering my expectations. Where I'm like, Stefan, just remember, it's not new music. It's not new music. But I always hope that it is. You know,
Yeah,
I'm like, ooh, yeah, she's doing the video for the new single, or like, I mean, she has the new music in the vault. I don't know why she's not releasing it. Like, it drives me crazy.
I don't know. I still, my supposition is that everything just went out of kilter when she got ill before the tour started. And I like to think that there was a plan for a new song during or after the tour quite quickly, and there was going to be la la. And I just think, it must have just all sent their schedules completely awry. So maybe that's the case. I don't know. Just want
Yeah.
something.
Yeah. And well, and like Ben usually says, maybe her ideas creatively about what she wanted to put out there changed. You know, like
Yeah.
maybe her brush with death sort of
Mm,
said, you know what? I don't want to talk about this subject matter anymore.
yeah.
And it changed, which is fine, but I would love to be able to see the release of something sooner or later. I mean, so realistically, and since we're going to be talking about Celebration Tour in just a second, um, what do you think is coming with the Celebration Tour? So obviously she is going. I'm assuming there's some sort of Jonas Ackerland filmed
Yeah.
version of it coming.
So so in the at the LA shows they professionally shot two of them, and there were a lot of handheld cameramen going around filming crowds at specific points during songs. You could tell they wanted people jumping up and down to Hung Up and Ray of Light, and they were sticking cameras in our faces. Then the Mexico shows, every night on the Mexico show had a camera setup that was changing each night. So they had hard cameras on the left one night, hard cameras on the right another night, crane cameras were alternating on nights. So they've definitely got significant volumes of footage for I don't want to say DVD because everyone will shout at me for being old, for a tour film, for a streaming release. They've definitely got enough footage there. Um, I'm always impatient, and I'm in a world where Taylor Swift's and I don't want to compare. I'll get shouted at for that. But Taylor Swift's already got her tour out for people to watch before the tour's even finished.
Exactly.
Momentum, and and I always feel sad that the tour films of Madonna shows come out so long after the tours are finished, and the casual fans that would have still been in that post show glow that would have wanted to have watched it again have probably moved on by now. We live in such a disposable world now. People don't wait for things. So I'd say there's definitely something coming. She'll want it captured, so of course she will, and they wouldn't have gone through all that expense and effort to have recorded it. But come on, it's a long
Yeah.
time.
I mean, I assume that has to be the next official release that we're going to get from her. And again, my thinking is, well, hopefully maybe we'll get a new song tacked onto the credits of that tour release, and that will
Yeah,
be like a buzz single with a video, and that will like tide us over until she wants to like put together a full album or something.
yeah. Or go back on tour again. Go to all the places that she didn't go do this time. I still think that's a possibility.
So would you think that she would relaunch the Celebration Tour? It would be like the same tour, or would she retool it? I mean, because Neil, obviously we know she barely scratched the surface of her catalog of songs. She could do a completely different tour with
Yeah,
completely different songs and
yeah.
still do 2 hours.
Yeah, and she barely scratched the surface a lot of the markets where she could sell. Like she only did one tiny arena in Italy where she can pack stadiums in multiple cities, for example. So there's untapped demand out there in terms of money that she could make and where she could go. And as you say, with the show itself, there's so many other songs that she could introduce. There's the entire section that was cut from the tour shortly before it started that had music, Give It To Me, 4 minutes, and back that up to the beat. You know, that whole main stage section that she dropped, that could easily just get slotted back in. Um, you know, we saw her during the tour swapping out Rain and Take a Bow and Frozen, so it's not that hard to swap some things in and out. So I don't think it would take too much effort to revamp the show and get it back out on the road again. I guess for her, it's a case of, do I want to go out and make another load of money on the tour, or do I want to get on with the movie of my life, or do I want to do something completely new? And this is always the part I get frustrated at when she's in her creative process period where she's thinking about what she's going to do next, and we don't know. I'm like, okay, well, I'm entitled to know. I want to know what's coming next.
I
Yeah.
know. When the release of Bedtime Stories came out 30 years ago, I remember I was, because we celebrated the anniversary of it. I was thinking, well, back then we didn't know what she was up to as frequently. And I think it was almost slightly better times because at least we were ignorant to the fact that, like, she was in a creative lull or she's returned, like we didn't know. And
And
I
all of a
think,
sudden, one day in the newspaper, you'd have a full page advert for Madonna at Wembley Stadium on the Girly Show, and it's out of nowhere. And it
yeah,
would just, oh, yeah, as opposed to, right, we're in an album cycle now, which means album tickets on sale 4 weeks later, yeah.
mhm,
That element of surprise was fun.
yeah, for sure. Um, Last celebration tour tidbit that I'm going to mention, as well as in This Week in Jaconi, I'd forgotten to mention. I don't think I talked about it on the show, but I met Bob the drag queen a couple of weeks ago when they visited the Philadelphia area. They did a little meet and greet, and I was like, well, I have to do the meet and greet to meet Bob officially. Sadly, Bob did not remember me. I wore my
Put
suit
your
jacket.
jacket on, yeah.
I had my jacket on and I figured there's no way that they're not going to remember this jacket. And they did not. So I was I sad. I was like, come on. Um, but Bob, I did tell Bob about the podcast, and Bob said, "Oh, do you talk about me on the show?" And because of
Cool.
that, I was like, "Of course we do." And Bob was like, asked me for my phone and recorded a little memo, which I'd posted on our Instagram stories. Maybe I'll slot it into the audio version of this show after the fact, just so you can hear it. Um, but yeah, very funny stand up. If Bob's coming to your city, go see Bob. It was like 2 hours of comedy and interaction with the audience, and very very funny, very friendly. So yeah, if you're looking to laugh, go see Bob when Bob
He's so
comes,
tall as well, isn't he? Because you and me are tall, but he's like, because we
especially in
met him.
heels. Yeah, forget it.
We saw him quite, well, him and the dancers quite a few times in the airports during the tour, and you can't miss them. Like, wow, he's just like,
Yeah, like tall, like very tall. Should be a volleyball player. Um, all right, so turning to topic of the day, because as I said, see, I told you, Neil, we're already running far longer than we thought we were going to. We're like, oh, we're going to be done in 20 minutes. No.
yes,
So Neil's joining me today because he finished his very unofficial. So just for everyone to know, it's an unofficial celebration tour photo book. Tell me about your book, Neil. How did that idea come to you?
so if I go way, 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 way back and to the days we were talking about where you didn't know what was coming next, back when I was a kid, 1987, 1990, Who's That Girl, Blonde Ambition Tour. I don't know if you used to get them in America. We used to get these magazines in the UK produced by a company called Starblitz. And when Madonna was on tour, you'd go into the news agent and you'd get your weekly magazine, smash hits, star hits, and whatever. And then when Madonna was on tour, quite often you'd get these extra, like, special magazines that would be there, and they'd be full of photos from the whole tour. They'd take you through the show from on Who's That Girl tour, Open Your Heart through to Lucky Star, right the way through to the end, all the costumes, everything. It was great. And by the time the girly show rolled around, they'd stopped making them. I don't know if that was because they just weren't making them anymore, or the demand had dropped. And I remember I was really sad as a kid, and the first time I did multiple Madonna shows all around the place was Drown World, and that was where I set out just for myself because collector, have my OCD. I wanted a magazine again that featured all of the concert photos, all of the outfits and everything from the Drowned World tour to go in my little library with everything else. So bought myself a cheap camera, and in those days that was a camera with film in.
Yep.
And by about the 10th show on the Drowned World tour, I'd learned how to use it. And I made myself a little magazine at the end of it with all my pictures in. And some of my friends were, well, that's really good. And I carried on doing the same thing through to Reinvention and Confessions, and and each tour, more people would want a copy of them, and by that point we'd started doing the Madonna fan parties. So when Sticky and Sweet rolled around, someone said to me, "Well, oh, I'd love to buy a book of your photos." So at the time of Sticky and Sweet, I then started making these hardback books again, just for myself, not for anyone else. Um, and those ended up doing 500-600 copies, which is more than what some books that you sell in shops sell. And so when MDNA then rolled around, there was then an expectation from a lot of fans in the UK that, oh, can't wait for your book this time. So and again, all the time I'm just taking photos myself, not really thinking of what I'm doing. And it wasn't until Rebel Heart tour I actually went into Rebel Heart thinking, I'm going to shoot the show now. I'm actually getting a creative vision for it. And then obviously, one of the previous podcasts I did with you, I threw my fit and my sulk that I couldn't take my camera into the Madam X tour. So I
Mm-hmm.
missed being able to photograph that. So when Celebration Tour kicked off, I was like, right, this is going to be the book. Of all the books that I've made, as soon as the tour was announced, I was having people message me saying, "Oh, are you doing a book again? Are you doing a book again?" And I was in two minds. Am I just going to go and enjoy this tour and relax, or am I gonna shoot it? And I was like, do you know what? Let's shoot it. I love taking concert photography. It's a big hobby of mine. So yeah, opening night, it was like, right, get the camera out, off we go. It started from just me wanting to have something on my shelf with
Mm-hmm.
that captured the entire show rather than just the few photos that get released officially. I wanted that, I want something to look back on that was the whole thing.
Yeah, and so if you're watching this, the photos behind Neil are taken by Neil. Um, Neil also obviously has posted them on his Instagram. Um, and I think the great thing about your photos is you went to how many shows of
I did
Celebration
50,
Tour?
I did 50 in the end. I was poorly in the middle, so I lost a few. So I then had to get better quickly and then tag a load on at the end. So I did 50 in the end.
And for all of those shows, you were in different vantage points from, I mean, sometimes you were up by the main stage, sometimes you were at the end of the catwalk, sometimes you were in the pit. So you were sort of getting different vantage points from all over the stadium.
Yeah, I've never been one of these fans that desperately has to be in the front row because I think we go to see Madonna, and I think there are some fans that go to the show for Madonna to see them. And
Mm.
I've never been in that category. And some like there were some nights in Europe, the Copenhagen shows, for example, I sat on the lower tier because dead center on, miles away from anyone, but I wanted to get panoramic shots of the whole stage to take everything in, some crowd shots. Every now and then nip up to the bathroom during Bedtime Story to get some shots of her on top of the box and things like that. Yeah. So it was about, you get 5 or 6 shows in, you know what the show looks like, you know where she's going to be in, and you can think, right, I now need a couple of nights to go and be over there now. I'll be a little
Mhm.
bit further back now because I know what shots I want to get. It takes a while to understand what you're shooting before you then decide what it is you want to look, and I think what you want the book to look like. And what I've tried to do with the book itself is take people back through the tour itself. It's not a book of 400 close-ups of her face. There's a lot of panoramic shots. There's a lot of shots of her and the dancers, of her, what she's wearing on her feet, her outfits. I've tried to capture the essence of the show, not just zoom in, 400 pages of zoom ins on her face, which I don't think is the right thing to do if you're trying to do a tour book.
So 400 pages. That's a sizable book then.
It's quite thick. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
yes. Oh, yeah.
yeah.
Oh, yeah. So that's like a good solid, and it's hardback. And yeah,
Yeah.
that's like a big old coffee table book.
It is, and I couldn't get anywhere near the amount of photos in I wanted to. And I had a few of my friends, Dave, Veronica, Nick, and Sean and Terry, give me some photos from the shows that I was too poorly to attend because I wanted every single show represented in the book. So we
Oh,
did have
nice.
photos from all 81 shows in there. Um, but you just couldn't get it all into to 400 pages. So there is going to be a second volume quite soon following up after for people that cannot get enough Celebration Tour, with all the photos that couldn't go into this one. Kind of like Tension and Tension 2 if you're a Kylie fan. You've got Celebration Tour 1 and then Celebration Tour 2 book coming later. But yeah, it's a big book. It's going to take people a while to get through. But it
Well,
took
if did so if I don't think you knocked on my door for the Santa Claus photo, but I'm happy to lend my Santa Claus photo because I thought my
that would
Santa
be
Claus
awesome.
photo was far better than the one she posted.
Yeah, I remember seeing those. Oh, yeah, I will definitely be knocking on your door for those because I've not got all of the judges yet. Got most of them, but not all of them.
Yeah, you had to be in like the perfect van. Like I was in the pit for that, and because of my height, I was able to sort of like take the camera over. Or I think I was leaning into the security area as well as like avoiding people. You just kind
Yeah,
of had to be at the right place at the right time
yeah,
sometimes.
yeah. So you haven't got dancers in the way and everything else.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Well, and also, yeah, that was the thing. I think for the Santa Claus, I I knew that they were going to hold numbers up at a certain point, and so I like that's why I was able to get photo and then video of Santa Claus falling with her because I took a couple photos of them holding the numbers up, and then I'm like, let's get some video just for fun, and I switched over to video at just the right time because that's when the dancer comes and like jumps on his lap, and the poor guy just didn't wasn't
I,
prepared.
you were so lucky to be there for that. And Dave, who's my one of my closest friends who I do all the shows or a lot of the shows with, we always say you remember the shows where things happen and things can be like the Kylie moment or things can be the Santa Claus moment or the moment where she berates the crowd because the doors at the back are open and she has a fit. You can do 20 shows and they're all the same. Yeah, but every now and then when something like that happens, like the moment you had with Santa Claus, you always remember the funny moments. So you were really lucky to be there for that.
And that's what I love about being able to see multiple shows. Like if you're lucky enough to go a couple of times to have those moments of difference, it almost is like even if like that one moment where she like forgot her microphone during Open Your
Yeah,
Heart and
I had to go running back. Yeah.
it's and again, we're not reveling in the fact that there was a mistake made, but it's like because Madonna loves to be so precise every time when something off script goes on, you're like, oh my God, yes. What's she gonna do in this moment, you know?
Yeah. No, it's really, really funny. Oh God. And
Um,
nights where she'd throw in a little bit of causing a commotion and things like that where you just all of a sudden the excitement level peaks back up and you're like, oh no. Well, like we were
yeah.
saying earlier, we're always wanting something extra, aren't we?
Neil, tell everyone where they can get the book.
So the book will be advertised on my own social media and via all of the major Madonna fan sites because it's a blurb self-published book. So it's not like we're making 500,000 copies of them sat there ready to ship out. You will order them via blurb. So it will just be a link that goes out. We'll post it to Madonna Tribe, the Stefan, the MLVC podcast guys will get a link. My own socials will get a link. Or I'll post it on Madonna Infinity. All the forums. You won't be able to miss it. One thing that I always just say with this is I don't charge on top of the cost that it goes to print the book. So there's no profits made on this as well. So that's, as Stefan said earlier, this is super unofficial. This is one fan taking photos for other fans.
Right. And just as a photographer, I know Blurb tends to upcharge a lot on their costs. It's not cheap to produce those books on Blurb, but they're high quality. I've done a project on Blurb and the it's just really, really great quality. The print quality is great. It's like a professional book that you would buy in the bookstore.
Yeah,
And but yeah, like Neil said, I mean, Neil's not going to make any money off of it, and it is a bit more of a higher end quality price, but it's worth it because of the attention to detail that goes into making the books, and they're print on demand, so it's you order it and they make it for you, which is great.
yeah, I had to pay for my own copy. It arrived yesterday. I was so hoping it had arrived before I spoke to you today, and it arrived yesterday. And I opened it with such trepidation. That please be good. I know it looked great on screen, but please be as good in on 10 by 8, 10 by 8 print. And it really did turn out
And
well.
you're
And
happy with it?
I oh yeah, I'm always my own worst critic, and I must admit this one I was going through, going, yep, nailed it.
Nice.
I look at some of my previous books, and I look back and I think you could have done that differently, or I wish I'd done that. And this one, I was like, do you know what? As a as a keepsake for that tour, this is it for me. I'm happy with this. I'm happy to put this into the world, and I know that people will enjoy it. So yeah, I'm happy on this one.
Nice. I'm excited to see it. Um, well, so everyone listening, make sure we'll post the links once we get it, and uh, get your copy of Neil's unofficial celebration
Unofficial.
tour. Unofficial, not not endorsed by Madonna, but it should be. Like,
Oh, she'll get a copy. Her team have had previous copies of my other books as well, and I've had feedback, but yeah, but very unofficial.
so then let's put this out into the universe. Next time she goes on tour, they need to bring you on board as official tour photographer, and they need to bring me on board as official celebration tour correspondent. So
I think that would work well. I think I don't. I worry that we wouldn't get much work done. We'd be hypothesizing the whole time what she should do next.
yeah, all of my official celebration tour correspondent duties would have been like, she should have done a new song. What song do you think she should have done? No, I would never be that. It would be I would be completely honored to be part of that tour entourage. That would be amazing.
And one thing, I just to go back to something you said earlier that I just wanted to point out, there is no AI used in this book. There is some filtering and some sharpening, but there is no digital distortion of anything within it. I know we spoke about that earlier in terms of seeing her face, what she looks like. That's what this book is. And one of my friends, Sean, who was the friend of mine who finally gave me the kick to do it, he said to me that we don't know if she's going to tour again. This book could well be the last ever artifact that we get that captures her as she looks at her, at her creative peak with this tour. Please do it. So yeah, there's no digital manipulation
Enhancements.
thing. No, this is her. This what you see behind me is her.
Yeah. And that's the Madonna I love. That's why I was so intent on capturing some photos and video,
Yeah.
was because we all know what happens with the tour films. Like, she looks one way in person and then they filter and distort. And I I get from an artist's perspective why she wants to do it, because it's her product and she can do what she likes. But personally, I don't think she needs it. And
No.
I wanted to capture authenticity. She looked gorgeous on stage, and I wanted to capture that. So I'm glad that you have a book of that.
And I struggled to pick the tour cover. Like the four behind me, like were in the running for the covers of the book. But I struggled to pick 'cause there were so many iconic looks from this tour that she just looked wow in. Yeah, and I don't think she needs any of the digital manipulation. I think she looks beautiful as she is.
Hmm. Agreed. Well, Neil, before we go, we've had you on the show a few times, so you've already done the regular lightning round that we've had. But I thought, since we've just celebrated the 30th anniversary of Bedtime Stories, why not do a special bedtime story lightning round? So don't think too hard. Just quick off the top of your head.
Oh, okay.
Favorite bedtime stories song?
Take a bow. Just
Fa-
love it.
yeah, I mean, it's such one of her best
It's the one I
ballads.
go to. It's the one, yeah. I listen to it independent of the album. Yeah.
Favorite bedtime stories music video?
Secret. I never forget the first time I saw Secret. She looked so different to any time we'd ever seen her before. It was her just walking down the street, brand new era. And that's the image of bedtime story for me that still sits with me. That blonde hair, rough, not over polished, not overproduced. Yeah.
Mm. Favorite bedtime stories song performance from a tour?
Oh, from a tour. I was going to say something else then, but if it's from a tour, ooh, I can't. Secret on Drown World Tour was amazing because I love the Drown World Tour. I think when the dust settles, that'll be my favorite all-time Madonna show. And I love simplicity. It's why Something to Remember is my most listened to album. Cut away all the crap. I just want the songs, and I'm a big Madonna, ballad queen. So yeah, just her standing there singing with a guitar for Secret.
Mm.
Yeah.
Favorite bedtime stories song remix?
Junior Sound Factory remix of Secret, the 10-minute version, because I always thought if she did tour that tour, the way that that 10-minute remix starts and builds up, builds up, builds up, and then goes bang, something's coming over. Oh, wow. And I've got so many good memories of dancing to that remix in clubs as well. Yeah, no, hands down. Yeah.
All right, and then last one, and this one just came to me. I hadn't pre-planned this one. Favorite bedtime stories promo, like interview or special?
So I'm going to give you the answer I was going to give to the live performance. The one I had to do some pretty horrific things to get into the Brit Awards to see her perform Bedtime Stories. So I'm having that because that was hard work to get into the pit for that performance. That was the first time I think I'd seen her at an award show. I'd seen her at Top of the Pops, do you'll see, but seeing her sing bedtime story at the Brits would probably be my moment. And then if I can have another one, I'll have the Ruby Wax interview where she's lying on a bed going on about lighting, and none of us at that age understood it, and now won't go on any kind of Teams or Zoom call without at least four different up lights, down lights, soft filters. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now I get it.
That was where she first announced herself as the creamy smooth pop god iconist or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Um, I think for me, I always loved that MTV Take a Bow special, Take No Bull.
Oh, when she talks about the damn Bodyguard soundtrack and Boys and Men, and yeah. 'Cause it was like she's getting ready for Evita with the take a bow look and being all glamorous. Then all of a sudden, Detroit Madonna hits again in the interview because she can't get to number one on the charts. Like, yeah,
Yeah, I always loved that. Her and Kurt Loder always had a fun,
that was
like,
fun. Those were the good old days. We've done a
yeah,
lot of reminiscing today. I'm going to go back and look at a lot of old footage after this chat today. It's been nice to look back.
yeah. We're in a Madonna celebration mood, so
Yeah.
we're appreciating the old. Well, Neil, tell everybody where they can find you on social.
Cool. So I'm on Instagram most of the time these days. So NS Photos, and rather than O for photos, it's zeros. Or you can just search me by my name and I'll pop up there.
And what's happening with Madonna Fan Party? Are we?
We're waiting for something to come out. So we normally tie the fan events to a release, reissue, or an anniversary. We haven't had a big one this year really to go with. We had Bedtime Stories, obviously, but putting that on in a nightclub with 500 people is not gonna,
Yeah, yeah.
unless I recreate the pajama party, but I don't think anyone's going to shut up and listen to anyone read a bedtime story. So definitely be something for Confessions next year. And if we get a re-release, reissue box set or something along those lines, or a celebration tour streaming release, then there'll be something to commemorate those for sure.
Cool. I'm excited. Yeah, I let's fingers crossed some sort of big
Okay.
celebration tour release is coming.
Yeah.
That would be fantastic. Like I want a couple like a weekend in the theater so we can get it on the big screen and then followed up by like a streaming platform release. And then like I want the Rio show like
Yeah.
just downloadable plus a tour documentary like Truth or Dare. Like I want the trio of
Yeah.
documentaries and then the full performance of the Mexico shows filmed. You know, like I want so much.
I want Frozen from the shows that she did. Just take it from the venue hard cameras. Don't care. I want that in there. Yeah, I want all the causing a commotion snippets. I want this used to be my playground where she sang. Yeah, we don't want much.
Well,
Don't
and
think
then I
we're
think even what would be fun is if because Vogue went for so long, they could just do a supercut of every single judge in
yeah,
while that show's running. Like it doesn't even have to be like just show one or you know, like it could just be a supercut of all of them.
yeah, yeah. Choose between which judge you want to watch. Hmm.
There we
There,
go.
there we
Why are
go.
we not on her team, Neil? I just don't
We
understand
ask
this.
ourselves this time and time again, don't we?
What t-shirt are you wearing real quick before you go?
Oh,
What is that?
it's one of my Mexican street
Oh,
market.
let me see. Stand up a little bit. Let me see. It's
It's
Madonna from oh,
it
from the
is.
music album. Oh, is that from Mexico?
Yeah, yeah. I bought. Oh my God, I had to buy two extra suitcases to bring back from Mexico. The amount of street merchandise I bought, it was wow. And what was really funny, all the dancers and the crew were all buying it as well. It was so funny. We're like, "What are you doing here? You shouldn't be buying this." Like, you shouldn't either. We're like, "Oh well."
Yeah, I'm wearing I have the Rio,
I love
the Rio t-shirt that was like, I love that t-shirt. It's amazing. It was
Yeah,
like the merch that I was like, why isn't this in the official merch?
I know. I know.
No, don't get me started. Well, remember, everybody, you can find us on Instagram, X, and Threads at MLVC Podcast. You can donate to the podcast on Venmo at MLVC Podcast, or click the like button on YouTube and give a donation via Super Thanks. If you've not yet subscribed to our YouTube channel, tick that subscribe button so you never miss a video. Until next time, everybody, go follow Neil, buy his book, and remember, nothing really matters. Love is all we need. Stay there, Neil.